Hello and welcome to the FPLUSA Press Play Podcast. Hopefully you are tuning in with a green arrow in your locker before another break in the action. You've got two of your hosts, Bucks and Brian, all plugged in and primed for the good banter and our kind of debut on video. Brian, you've been working in the background. How the hell are you doing?
What's good, Bucks? I'm a little bit nasally, little bit of a raspy throat, so bear with me this episode. I was in Los Angeles, the city of angels, with a couple of our mini league friends and some college buddies, and we had a big boys weekend. I got a lot of pent out banter into the wild, and it was a good time for sure.
Tell the listeners a little bit more. I know you went to this social media sensation of a soccer bar out west in California. How was that?
That's right. I went to COSM. Big shout out to Corey, one of our good buddies, and Ryan, who has been on the pod a few episodes ago. He is part of the hashtag FPLUSA community. He actually drove over an hour and a half to get to COSM. So he left his house at 4:30. I thought he was closer, so I thought it was only asking him to drive like half an hour. And we went to this crazy sphere-like dome to watch the 6 a.m. kickoff Pacific time of Manchester United and Villa, and it was sick. Like, they have this cool feed that comes in from Villa Park, multiple angles, it changes throughout the game, and you're sitting in these like reserved, like luxury booth kind of setup where you have a waiter come to you, and then you also can order breakfast, coffee, had a beer, 6 a.m., and it was just really cool. I think it's the future of sports watching in big cities. And if they can figure out the technology and just how to reduce the cost a bit, because it was a bit fucking pricey. It was like $75, so not cheap, but definitely a very cool experience to take in a game in the futuristic way.
Brian, let me just check on your pinky. Do you mind putting your pinky up for the listeners? So are you okay there? $75, actually, all things considered, compared to a ticket to see the match at Villa Park. You know, you save on the flight, you save on the entrance fee to get into the stadium. It really looked like you were had one of the best seats in the house at Villa Park for that Manchester United Villa match. And I'm sure at least Ryan didn't have to stomach watching Manchester United lose and drop points. So the draw, kind of a good result for Man United, all things considered.
Yeah, that was the only unfortunate thing, because earlier, the day before, we're seeing games with 4 and 5 total goals. The Spurs and Brighton match right after that had 5 goals. So we just wanted to see a couple go into the back of the net to see the park explode. That was one of the cool things too, was the angle, like it showed the crowd, and they were going off on a few players throughout the match, and they're all standing up, just throwing down their fingers at players who are rolling around on the ground. And it was pretty cool. There's a few moments where like a ball went right past the keeper Martinez, and then it like hit one of the cameras and like rattled the thing. It was interesting. So definitely would suggest, if you're ever in Dallas or in Los Angeles, to check out COSM.
All right, great free plug for COSM here, and I'm seriously getting some
become
FOMO.
A sponsor, get involved, COSM.
Yeah, that would be amazing. The video feed you're seeing today, ladies and gentlemen, could be really upgraded to the moon if we had COSM support in the mix. With that, I had some FOMO not being there with you, and FOMO for the goals that we're missing out in that match. But there's also some FOMO because right now I'm looking at a really healthy red arrow going into the next week and change as we enter the second international break period. So there will be no Premier League footy and no game week to look ahead to this weekend.
Shambhala.
So with that, I think this is going to be a slightly quicker episode with just the two of us, Brian. So let's hit the rewind button and let's just recap for our listeners how the three hosts did, how the average FPL manager did, and then who really smashed it in our free-to-enter podcast mini-league.
Yeah, let's start with your squad. And you end up on a red arrow, unfortunately, Buck. So walk the listeners through your team here.
Oh no, I was hoping we were going to start with the good and maybe leave me. We might. I was hoping we might forget about my game week score of 50 points. I captained Holland. I had tinkered with captaining Saka, but I never felt great about that. And the jammy haul for Saka was well deserved, and I totally missed it. So 50 points, and making matters even worse for my team was I benched Pau Torres, who's sitting first bench on my squad with what could have been a much needed 6-point boost. So 50 points, red arrow. All in all, I have to say, I am still having a reasonably good start to the season. No time to panic here, but I wish I was a little more prudent with some of my transfers. And yeah, I just feel like when I use 2 chips already at this point, I should be doing a little better than I am. So the responsibility totally falls on my head for that. How'd you do, Brian?
Let's hit the pause button quickly when you're talking about your transfers. What was your move last week? I think on Friday. Usually we catch up for usually at least 15 minutes to walk through our transfers, and we've been pretty good about holding them until the deadline. So I had no idea what moves you were making. I caught you right before you went to bed, and you're like, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, it got late really quick. That's the time difference woes that we have between the hosts. I was pretty 50-50 between Trossard and Brennan Johnson. And listen, since I had a kind of very well-intentioned rant against the Ange Ball Spurs, they have been banging in the goals, and specifically BJ has been nailed in the goal-scoring department. So I ended up swerving him last minute. I felt Trossard against Southampton. I almost felt like that as a short-term punt was too good to ignore, and I punted myself right in the nuts with that move because he lands starting spot on the bench, and when he comes on, it's not him that gets in on the goal-scoring action. It was his counterpart Martinelli. So that's just a brutal noodle. I missed of the 3 guys I was considering, 2 of them get returns, and my guy sitting there with a disappointing 1-pointer. Thanks for rubbing salt in the wound there, Brian. I appreciate you.
Hey, I mean, what can you do? I think I was also in the similar problem with Diaz as we jumped to my team. I ended up on 63 points, and a green arrow rose about 600,000 places. So I'm basically back to where I was when I wildcarded, which is not the greatest, but still feeling positive about my team. But I, unlike you, went with the captain of Saka, and got to give a huge shout out to our guy Corey. Him and I were riding the Saka cap together, watching all the matches, Goal Rush, 7 a.m., and we were stoked the way that these matches played out. And ultimately, having watched the Bournemouth and Southampton game the week before, Southampton just looked so diabolically bad that I was just going to go with Saka. I thought he was going to get a minimum of 5 to 7 points. And having owned ESR and Jedi earlier in the season, shout out to those guys pre-wildcard. They did their goods. They did their deed of goods. And I just thought that Fulham have been playing relatively good ball. And lo and behold, they gave City a fucking run for their money. Good Lord. They are
so true.
Very unfortunate not to get a point out of that match. And then Holland blanks as well. No Rodri, no KDB, Foden trying to get back into the squad and get his legs underneath him. So, look, I got pretty lucky there. But elsewhere around my squad, I only had 2 other players get points, and that's TAA with 8 points and Mbomo with 9. So pretty poor showing other than the Saka cap, but it was a great feeling to pull off my first big differential captaincy of the season.
Yeah, bravo to you and any managers who were bold enough to swerve the robot. Black Wolf joined me on Holland cap. He ends up on 55 points all out. And joining me in the Soggy Sorrows was the average score this game week, 46 points all out. There were some big scores, though. Let's put the spotlight on the top manager in our free-to-enter mini league. That is the Press Play Pod Premiership. And again, this is a league. It is free to enter. The access code will be around until the start of game week 8. And it is code T88F87. Again, get involved if you so desire. It is a global free-to-enter mini-league, and the overall winner will be receiving a Premier League kit of their choosing.
That's right.
It will be sent to them. We are accountable. We will cover all the expenses there. And again, the top scorer each and every game week will be getting a shout out here on our podcast. So, Brian, who are we shouting out today?
Yeah, come hang out with us. We have a really impressive score of 86 points for Balkan United, a.k.a. Zlatan Grgic. Very impressive score here. Just running through his top performers. Saka cap for 32 points. Diogo Jota with 8 points. Welbeck with 8 points. And Kai with 8 points. So impressive there. He also gets another magic 8 ball from TAA. So lots of 8s and multiples of 8s in this squad. Well done with 86 points this week.
Yeah, crazy 8s and that Saka captain haul for tied for the best Zlatan that either of us know in the world. That's for sure. Congrats to you. That is a massive score and a well-deserved green arrow. So again, league is T88F87. If you want to have a chance to win a free kit at the end of the season, just get involved. Costs you nothing.
That's right. That's right. All right, we're going to take our first break, and we're going to come back and recap the most important matches from Game Week 7. We'll be right back.
And we're back. All right, let's really fire up the DVR and get looking at Game Week 7 in deep focus. Let's start with Arsenal. I want to let Brian, you're on the pod together with me. I'll let you gloat a little bit here. So Arsenal win, but they don't keep clean sheets as they beat the Saints 3-1. They shot them down in the town square, so to speak. And it really all came down to Saka, who got that gifted, jammy goal to bring his double assist showing up to a massive haul. He lands on 16 points total. Again, he gets the goal, a brace of assists, and 3 bonus points. 1, 2, 3 directly into your points tally.
Yeah, Saka kept the faith. A lot of managers, over, I think, 150,000 managers transferred him out to bring in Cole Palmer in Game Week 7, and they were instantly punished. You can't take out one of the best assets in the game before you play one of these relegation teams. So really happy to see him create yet another chance. He has created 27 total chances through the first 7 game weeks. He is in first place for all midfielders, and I believe probably the entire game right now. So he's consistently putting the balls on a plate, and the pass and the vision to Martinelli to take that 2-1 lead was an incredible ball over the top of the
Unreal.
defense, and Martinelli just toes it in right past the keeper. It was a great finish as well. I'll have to give Martinelli that because he's been a bit poor over the last year. So that was huge, and then Southampton just capitulated. Like, what were they doing? They give the ball away, and Saka scores a goal at the end, and that was a big one. That was definitely a big one. And then looking at the stats here right now on the video, Arsenal 3.25 versus Southampton's 1.27. So like you were saying, what the F happened to double Arsenal defense? It's been broken since I wildcarded this view of Raya. He's supposed to be getting me 6 points against these promoted teams with ease. Both him and the likes of Gabriel do jack shit. So what did you see here? I mean, Southampton almost had another goal. I think got went off the bar and then cleared off by Raya. So bit of a mixed bag here against these 2 promoted teams.
Yeah, I think there was 2 huge sliding doors moment. I mean, one, James Justin has clearly broken the double up on Arsenal defense from an FPL perspective. And like you said, the Saints were really unfortunate to not have a second. I mean, this game could have been a nail-biter going into the end of the match where Southampton, rather than getting a second goal, they just go and absolutely gift Saka with that third goal. It ends up not being the winner at the end of the day, but it very much could have been on a different day. And again, you know, when Saka, he's in massive assist-giving form right now. There's no doubting his abilities there. He is probably one of the best distributors and creators on the wing in all of the Premier League. And he's continuously giving assists from corner kicks, from open play. He looks spectacular there. What really had me kind of in my feelings a little bit was that goal, because it was such a gift. It was really put on a plate for him to finish. And, you know, when you're looking at maybe 8 or 9 points from the Saka captainers, you know, you're only losing maybe 6, maybe 7 points there against the Holland cap. But when it becomes double digits, you're really feeling that not only in the rank, but in the score department. And a lot of managers suffered not believing and keeping the faith in Saka, and bravo to you for really sticking the armband on him and doubling down on that call. But
seven chances created and 7 shots in that game.
I was going to say, we got away with one as Holland
Massive.
captainers. The fact when he scored that goal, I knew it was going to be a haul. But having watched the extended highlights, kind of feel like 16 points. He definitely could have had more. Just like Cole Palmer in game week 6 could have had well more than 25 points. Saka easily could have had another assist, if not another, couple more returns here.
Yeah, and I have to shout out Kai Havertz once again. He is in great goal scoring form. I think he scored in almost every one of their home matches this season. And even without Odegaard, he continues to chug along, gets a last-minute goal in game week 6, gets a big 8 points, and just the main goal scorer. He's in great form, confidence level is high, and this just, again, is a gift to FPL managers who, again, I had started him for the first 5 game weeks of the season. I took him out on wildcard and moved to double defense. Oof, that's biting me right in the ass because he looks like the talisman from an attacking perspective. I don't think Saka is going to get over 12 goals this season, but Kai, we could see him 17, 18 goals this season. What do you think there? And he's playing 90 minutes every match. Fitness beast. I feel good for the guy. I'm not going to lie.
It's validating for him. It hurts as a Chelsea fan to see him having such great success. But honestly, he had this in his locker when we got him from Leverkusen. And he's just really showing off and showing out in this Arteta system. He looks like a great get. I think he could still be a buy from an FPL perspective. Maybe after this more difficult stretch of matches that Arsenal have in their next 3. But he's providing great value under 8.5 million for FPL points perspective.
Yeah, and I think there's a world where, like, if you have Holland up top and you have Palmer in the middle, then maybe you skip Saka next time you are looking to switch and just go with Kai as your main Arsenal attacker. So that's something to think about long term.
I don't hate that. At all. Let's switch gears. Let's switch gears. Arsenal, just as last word here, they were just presented as the most likely team to lift the title, despite betting markets having City as ending up as predicted to be ahead on the points. Go figure. There's a little uncertainty around the next team we're going to discuss, which is Manchester City. And they got so fortunate. Not only did they get a small victory in the courts, they also got a very, maybe slightly undeserved victory on the pitch as they squeezed just past Fulham 3-2. Another ex-Chelsea player was the star here. That was Mateo Kovacic. He ends up on a brace. 5.5 million. I saw there were some psychos in the FPL community who actually captained this guy. Good for you if you had the cojones to do that. But it's Haaland's second blank in a row. Should we start getting worried, Brian?
Not with Wolves and Southampton to come in the next 2. We just saw Wolves just gift 5 goals to Brentford. So I think there are some goals ahead for the likes of Haaland. But I will say, without Rodri, without KDB, he's getting less service. 4 total shots in this match. And honestly, Marco Silva really deployed a great game plan. They found a lot of space behind the inverting Rico Lewis and exploited that time and time again. And I really thought that Fulham might win this match because if Adama Traore would spend a little bit more time on his finishing versus waxing his biceps and doing his curls, then maybe they would have come out with a victory. Traore, XG of 1.29, 3 kind of one-on-one chances with the keeper, converts zilch. That was insane. And shout out to our buddy Eamon. He could not believe it. He sent a string of like 15 texts a row in the group chat just ranting about how this could even be possible.
Yeah, completely unhinged from our buddy Eamon, who does all the music from this podcast. He's a new he's a new lease on life. He's a new lease on life Fulham fan after suffering through some of the Chelsea rebuilding efforts and being priced out of a Chelsea season ticket. He swapped allegiances, which great for him. He gets to go see footy in real life as opposed to watching it on a screen like the two of us.
Yeah, he's
but
got that
Traore himself,
SOB.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? The big thing I thought, watching the highlights here, is that Traore pretty much equaled Manchester City's entire team tally from an XG perspective. And from a vibes perspective, he was so clearly the best player in this game. He was the X factor. If he just takes one of those chances and puts it in the back of the net, I feel like the tides start piling on against City, and this match goes completely different because from an analytics and from a data perspective, Fulham were the better team. That squares with me, having watched the extended highlights and most of this game live. Yeah, if not for Kovacic's heroics, this game is totally different. Not to mention that Doku rocket blast that kind of came out of nowhere. I think that was probably his best moment in his City kit.
Not to mention, you got the Rico Lewis assist there.
Yes, I did.
Most ridiculous shot out of Doku's career. That usually goes into the stands, 20 yards off target, and yeah, it was a great moment for him. But
yeah, normally you got to hide the kids and the wives so that they don't lose a limb from a shot of that caliber from him.
Yeah, that's right. And it was good to see, as owners have Lewis, that Walker came on and Lewis still stayed on the pitch. So I think that's a big data point as well. And then we saw Walker get roasted like some delicious salsa with those California hot peppers, and Adama just still couldn't finish. So very, very peculiar match. And I think so far we have one single clean sheet from Manchester City this whole season. That's not great. And that was, of course, against Chelsea. So a bit rough here for our defensive owners.
Yeah, I don't think a double up is in store for Manchester City, and it's hard to have faith going Foden early right now based on what we're seeing from him in his Premier League appearances. Let's leave Arsenal and Manchester City battling for second place, and let's turn our attention to the team sitting at the top of the table right now, and that is Liverpool. They win 1-0 away at Palace. Now, speaking with some of the Liverpool fans in our lives, they really feel that this Palace away fixture has been a bogey game for them in the past couple seasons. And looking back, it has been. I mean, it's hard to see, other than that Mateta effort, there was one effort that Eze just totally blew. I mean, I feel like Liverpool were pretty much in control most of this game. Don't you?
Yeah, it proves out in the stats as well. XG of 2 for Liverpool and only 0.61 for Crystal Palace. And Eze just can't get off the ground. He was such a hot asset to start the season, and it's frustrating to only see one total goal from him so far. So if he's in your side,
stinks.
I think it's time to move him on. And obviously losing Elise, like you said in the past pods, Bucks, it's really having an effect on this team. With that being said, the curse of the early fixture for Liverpool continues. They only muster up one goal in this one by Jota in the first 10 minutes. And then later in the match, Alisson injures his hamstring again. We're going to have to keep a close eye on that because Kelleher at 4.5, especially in wildcard, you could go with a double keeper rotation potentially. They have kept 5 clean sheets out of the first 7 matches, which is more than any other team. It's more than City and Arsenal combined. So we should definitely be taking note of a few of their players. And I've even seen, when I was talking to Ryan at COSM IRL, he had the double up starting this weekend of Konate and Trent. And I was like, oh, that's unique. I haven't seen that in too many teams. And he's sitting above both of us in the standings. So he must be doing something right there.
Yeah, Slot has been brilliant since coming to the Premier League. He clearly has the team ready to play. He has a very strong belief in the system. And I mentioned it on Wildcard, and I ended up punting and not going there. Konate at $5 million looks like brilliant value if Kwanzaa is going to be nailed to the bench, because that VVD, Van Dijk, and Konate are the preferred center back pairings. So you're almost going in with a free roll, because Konate, he doesn't have the best attacking upside, but he's always in the box alongside Van Dijk.
He's got a goal and an assist so far.
I was going to say, he already has 2 returns, and right in the clean sheet department. In the clean sheet department, Liverpool just look so much better than the other teams. Now, obviously, that's subject to change with arguably the best goalkeeper in the world, Alisson, now likely to be sidelined for some time with a kind of re-injury of his hamstring. That didn't look good, we should say.
No timetable yet on that.
Yeah, no timetable, and I don't expect he's going to be rushed back. If they're going to be serious title contenders, they need him for like the festive fixtures and beyond. So again, I just think Salah, again, not great, but the defense looks like a real place to invest in for Liverpool because there's not as much rotation, and they just seem very solid. Nothing fancy, just solid.
A lot more control, and Ryan Gravenberch, however you say his name, Gravenbach, he's been playing super well this season.
You had it right the first time, you dope.
Next to Mac Daddy, and then you'll see Soboslai track back quite a bit, so they're doing quite well. What I want to rant about is mother bleeping Diaz being rotated, and again, I'm on a big boys weekend, drinks are flowing, I'm like, man, I got to get my sleep if I want to get up for the 7 a.m. goal rush where City and Arsenal are playing and all the other teams. So I miss the leak, and I end up starting Diaz for a one-pointer. I didn't use a transfer. I was going to look at Brennan Johnson, but I was just too out of it, honestly, to make the call. I've had my eyes on Foden, didn't do that, but it's just one of those things. It's a pain in the ass being in the States, especially on the West Coast where you can't take advantage of these leaks. And then I had Wood on the bench. So maybe I just mismanaged that and should have just started Wood versus Chelsea away, which honestly seemed like a tougher fixture. So it is what it is. But 7 points difference there on my bench would have been very helpful.
Yeah, similar to Eze, Diaz is punishing a lot of his new owners since Game Week 6 wildcard. I know I'm one of those new owners of Diaz. He's really gone tits up since then. He couldn't stop scoring. He was getting double-digit hauls kind of on accident, and now he's got back-to-back blanks. And again, he's going to play a lot this international break with Colombia and then have a long flight home to get back with the team. So Gakpo is a very steady and reliable deputy to him on that left wing spot. He could also kind of moonlight as a false nine. I thought he had a good game. He had that assist to Jota. So Diaz could be a problem going into Game Week 8 for many managers, in addition to Eze, who we called out before. Let's go to the next match.
Next up, who do we got here? Let's go to Chelsea and Forest, as we just teased moments ago. I did not watch this one, Bucks, because I was watching the COSM match. I had it up on my phone just to track a little bit and see what was happening. So why don't you tell the listeners what you saw? And unfortunately, NFO halts Chelsea's winning ways. Yeah,
this was a little bit of the Noni Madwecki show. It was good Noni and bad Noni both in this game. He is such an explosive player in that right wing, and he has so much potential in his locker. You can really see it the way that he runs at defenders. He's oozing with confidence, but oftentimes, with young players of his level, sometimes the confidence gets ahead of what the right play is or what the right move is for the team. And we saw shades of that a lot in the first half where, he would have an open runner, or he would seem to have a, sideways pass to another attacker for Chelsea to play into a better space. And yet he's calling his own number again and again. And that's great when the ball ends up in the back of the net, which it did for him in the second half. But it could be absolutely frustrating when you're just trying to, pile in the goals and the team itself is in great goal scoring form. But this one guy in the attack just keeps shooting it into the stand. So that was really frustrating. I should say Wood, really, really well taken goal. I also think Sanchez was brilliant.
One or two chances, right? That's the story of Wood. He does not get very many shots, but he is just a veteran striker on a team that needs him to have a few moments of brilliance throughout the games when they play. And he's been, I think he's got 4 goals in the first 7 matches. Not bad.
Yeah, he's a great finisher.
2 bonus points as well. He continues to mop up the bonus with the new rule changes. So
yeah, it was a great game for Chris Wood. I think overall a pretty good game for Nottingham Forest. They were able to, despite getting a late red card on Ward-Prowse, which was probably one of the shithouse moments of the season there.
What the F happened with that? He just falls on top of the ball and rolls on it like he doesn't want to give up his child.
I'll save my Jackson rant for a future episode, but I really think despite not getting a return in this game, and he didn't get a return in the last game either, this guy really puts in a shift every time he's on the pitch, and I have really high regard for Nico Jackson as a forward option, not just because he's a Chelsea player. I really see his potential, and I feel like sometimes he's jumping off the pitch the way that he plays. One player who's not only jumping off the pitch, he's jumping off the stat sheet, is Cole Palmer. He was kept quiet in this one, but only just barely, because he had one of the most ridiculous first touches to totally pretzel turn one of the Forest defenders, and then he stuck out a foot and took a quick right-footed shot on goal. Sells ended up with a brilliant double save, and then it was responded to by Sanchez, who saved a shot from Nico Williams, keeping Chelsea in this game. So I think this was a pretty deserved 1-1 draw from the stats. Chelsea were slightly ahead, but we were very wasteful. And I think most of that XG comes from some of those Noni Madwecki rocket blasts that was trying to hurt some of the fans in the stands.
All right, next up, let's talk about the last interesting match of the game week, which was Spurs going up 2-0 and then losing 3-2 to Brighton. Oh, goodness. I mean, from an FPL perspective, we love this. We want Spurs to continue to score 2 or 3 goals and just play open and attacking football so that their mid-priced assets deliver points. But as far as if I was a long-term Spurs fan, which I know a few of those painful managers across my community, it's rough right now because they have blown the most 2-0 leads of any team in the Premier League over the last 5 years.
This was similar to the Noni Madwecki anecdote I used earlier. This is a good Ange ball and then the very worst of Ange ball, all packed up into one match, because Tottenham, they race out to this 2-0 lead. All 4 of their attackers get returns. Werner and Solanke get assists. Maddison and Brennan Johnson get the goals. But then going into the second phase of the game, they just give it all back to Brighton and then some. And Brighton end up marching through with 3 goals of their own and end up stealing the 3 points. And, you know, watching the extended highlights, it's almost like you're watching 2 completely different games. So the fact that it's pretty much the same 11 guys from both teams in the 2 halves is kind of like baffling, because it looks like one team had a team talk and a little bit of a rest and maybe some Gatorade and some power up, and Tottenham looked like they might have been like running, you know, wind sprints during halftime. They came out like totally deflated. Energy wasn't there. And, you know, I was all but prepared to really talk about how my rant a few episodes ago really turned the season around for Ange Ball. And then he goes and does me like this. So, yeah, can't keep clean sheets, you can't defend. You can't really have a chance of competing for titles in the Premier League.
With that being said, Brennan Johnson, great goal.
Unreal.
Great goal-scoring form. 6 in 6 across all competitions. 6.6 million. He'll probably rise over the break. But with their great fixtures ahead, he looks like to be a great as a replacement. Even Diaz potentially is who I'm looking to replace with him. And then Matto, very involved in this one. He gets a goal and max bonus points for 10. He was somebody we shouted out a few weeks ago, considering he had one of the highest XGIs for all midfielders.
I should have gone there. Going Diaz and not Maddison. I immediately regret that.
And
Sorry, Bob.
I definitely think we got swayed a bit there, but that would have been much nicer over the last couple game weeks for you to have those Matto points and not the headache, because he continues to play a ton of minutes. So interesting all up. And then, of course, Bucks, your Brighton assets. You got Verbruggen in goal. Gets a cheeky little yellow card for the 0-pointer.
Yeah, and nice 0-pointer.
Minte scores his first goal of the season when you had him a few weeks ago. Oh my goodness, just an
you're taking too much joy.
Wait a second, I got a third one. Welbeck scores again. You could have had Welbeck instead of João Pedro, who I think is just dead on your bench. Oh, you can't get it right with these assets from Brighton.
Yeah, I'm taking up your mantle as the head bitch in charge of the Brighton anti-fan club. And you're just enjoying twisting the knife this episode just a little too much. So let's end the rundown of the good performances from Game Week 7. Now, we just want to kind of highlight the other side of the table, which is the gross, bad, and absolutely disastrous. Don't even try and touch these with a 10-foot pole. And that is the fact that there are still 4 winless teams in the Premier League. And I'm sorry to pile on while Dan is away, but that runs Ipswich, Crystal Palace, Southampton, and all the way down in 20th position, the Wolves. All teams still winless, and we're definitely going to have some Wolves therapy, Wolves Corner, when Black Wolf Dan is back on the podcast. And we should just shout out, he wrote a brilliant overview, a thread on social media covering which Wolves assets are worth targeting for the upcoming fixture swing that is coming starting in game week 9 for them. And he shouted out Cunha, who gets a goal. And then he shouted out Ronaldo 8 Nori, who's back in his goal-scoring fuck around and find out phase. Both those guys get on the goal sheet, but Wolves can't defend to save their lives, and they conceded 5 goals to Brentford. That was probably one of the most entertaining matches of the game week.
Yeah, this time it took Brentford 92 seconds to score their first goal. So 3 games in a row they score within the first 2 minutes. Absolute insanity. But you are right. They have some assets at Wolves. 8 Nori at 4.4, 4.5. He looks to be one of their key players in attack, even though he's listed as a wing-back type of player. So he's somebody I would definitely be considering. And they're going to get smashed by City, I would say probably 4-1. Maybe they get a cheeky goal.
Maybe worse, I think. It's been that bad in defense.
Yeah, that's true. They haven't kept a clean sheet in about 20 matches. So we'll preview our predictions in next week's episode. But for now, just, again, they have a big run coming up in game week 9. So hopefully things will get better for our good mate Dan.
2 last points before we get the hell out of here. We just want to mention that, Eze, we've been talking about him. The analytics community is bigging him up. He seems like he was one of those list of players who was marked as essential coming into the season. And he's essentially has no FPL value at this point in the season. It's been a complete disaster without Olise. And Palace have really suffered because it's almost too easy to play them out of their flow. Watching Crystal Palace against Liverpool, watching the last couple extended highlights for Palace, teams are basically, double and triple man marking Eze in the middle of the pitch. And they're getting away with it because they just don't have enough creativity on the wings right now. And they're almost a little too direct. So it's a problem.
Mateta he's kind of been in and out of the lineup. He only has 2 goals through his first 7 matches. Played in the Olympics, looks a bit leggy, so he doesn't start this match. So it's a mixed bag for Crystal Palace right now. But
yeah, it's a mixed bag of shit. It is not good at all. And last but not least, Brian, we gotta big up the United faithful because thankfully they salvage a point at Villa Park. So this is great news for rival fans and really bad news for their supporters because fortunately for some, unfortunately for others, Erik ten Hag is still leading this sinking ship. And that probably means that there is little to no value across this Manchester United team, except for Andre Onana, who I just saw is leading the goalkeeper tally in points. Right. I feel like this is coming out of total left field because I would not want to have him in my FPL team, but he's getting the points and I'm not. So shows maybe what I know as an FPL content creator here.
Yeah, I have to admit their attack makes no sense right now, but you have to give it your hat off to the likes of Maguire and Johnny Evans at his advanced age of 36 and approaching a trip to the nursing home. He puts in a big shift versus Ollie Watkins and Rodgers and a lot of popular assets. I mean, Sunday could not have gone any better for me, to be honest. I didn't have Palmer, didn't have Watkins, didn't have any Spurs players, and I got quite lucky that none of those guys really went off for double-digit hauls. But, let's wrap it up. We're going to take our last break, and then I just want to come back with our final words before an international break on a quick few players to watch, and then preview Bucks' bus team and what he's thinking about his transfer thoughts for the week ahead. We'll be right back.
And we're back. let's get this episode done and dusted so I can plan my apple picking and pumpkin patch adventures with my family this weekend.
Tis the season.
It is the second international break. Expect lots of niggles and mystery injuries to pop up to popular FPL players. And just a word of wisdom would be not to make any early transfers, if at all possible, at least in the first week of the international break. Let's pass it to you, Brian. How are you going to be celebrating this international break and no footy on this weekend?
Yeah, that's right. We are going to be without football once again. Ugh, these international breaks. No. Who's even playing? Who's even playing this long break? It's so annoying. And then we're going to have another one in 3 weeks' time. So it's a bit rough. I feel like we're just waiting for November and December to hit when we're going to have 10 games.
Fixtures,
in
more,
like 6
more,
weeks.
More.
Yeah, that's right. So addicts like us can get all of our FPL points in. But yeah, looking forward to taking some time off. I got to be traveling. I'm in San Diego. Might try and see our guy at FPL_Hunt. Connor out there soaking up the sun. And then in LA. So I got some travel for work coming up once again. But mainly NBA is around the corner too. I know we're talking about footy, but we're going to have the October sports equinox coming up here with all these sports live at once. It's a good time to be an addict of all sports, I would say, Bucks, right?
Yeah, this is a great time of the year. And, I just can't wait for the FPL to be back, because one of the worst things about this hobby of ours is when you have to sit with a bad result. And so Black Wolf and I holding that red arrow proud going into these next 2 weeks. That's not the way you want to be feeling about FPL going into a break. But like I said, I think both of us on the episode tonight are reasonably well set up. We started pretty well. And so, we've set ourselves a good base to build from. And that's the kind of mentality that I think is healthy for us FPL managers to approach this game with. And
yeah,
again,
let me jump in. Let me jump in and point
please.
out that you are roughly like double my current rank, but we're only separated by 12 points, which is pretty.
But
crazy.
I did use more chips, to be fair. So my soggy sorrows aren't totally undeserved.
I mean, 450,000 places is only a 12-point gap. That's one Pickford clean sheets and max bonus for saving saving a terrible pen from Anthony Gordon. So it's still very
so true.
Up, so don't fret too much. So heading into international break, just want to end on your bus team and kind of any transfer plans that you're thinking about, and then we can revisit this next week after we hear and see some of the international matches. So what is your plan right now? How many transfers do you have before we head into the break?
So I will just have the one free transfer for game week 8. I have not completely ruled out taking a hit for game week 8, so maybe making 2 free moves. I still have João Pedro, as you mentioned. He's just burning a hole on my bench. And I also, in midfield, I have 2 players that I feel like are suboptimal. So I have Eze, and then I just brought in Trossard, and I immediately hate that move. So I have Pau Torres as bench cover. He's kind of my 12th man on my squad. And I also have Greaves, who is fit, but he'll consistently be my 3rd bench unless there's a natural disaster of some sort in one of the other fixtures. So I think I'm just on the wrong Arsenal triple up. So I have Saka, Gabriel, and Trossard. So as a long-term planning move, I might just eat the hit and go maybe like Eze and Trossard out to level up my midfield. I also could maybe move on Trent to bring someone like Eze up to a big hitter. I don't hate that move. So I've tinkered with going someone like Eze to, say, Cole Palmer, and going Trent all the way down to Riyad 8 Nori, and that just fits. So I don't hate those moves, but again, probably too early in the international break for me to book any moves in. And then, I guess my bus team, I of course have Haaland because I'm a sheep and I always captain Haaland he's my shield and my warm blanket, and I like when he scores goals. So that's my expert 2 cents on Erling Haaland and why he's good for FPL.
I feel like you got to give Tross one more week against Bournemouth away. Like, not a great
Maybe,
fixture,
but
they
they're
should score 2-2 there. So I feel like your other midfielder slot you might want to sort out if you could just make one move and go to Johnson potentially.
Yeah, I could do
Or-
that. Definitely something I considered, just going Eze to Johnson and kind of pushing the major moves, major surgery down the road. Definitely in my thinking.
Okay, and then tell me, especially thinking about Cole Palmer, not in your side right now, plays away to Liverpool this week, but game week 9 and onwards is going to have a little bit better fixture run. How are you planning to get him? Because I know as a Chelsea supporter, you're singing his flowers, singing his praises every week, giving him his bouquet of roses. So what do you think there?
Yeah, so the pragmatic move for me is probably just to roll the transfer. Again, I should have at least one player coming off my bench that will be nailed in Pau Torres. So, should Trossard get benched again, or should, I want to just play Pau and bench Eze, that's probably the more pragmatic move so that I can make a double move in game week 9. I've never been one for pragmatism, as you know, podcasting with me for many years. So, again, the making moves is always more fun than rolling, as much as sometimes rolling could always be the optimal move. So I definitely have some players that are tickling my fancy, but I'm just going to practice patience. The international break is not time for me to get crazy. And as much as I'd love to have another wild card chip right about now with the way my team's shaping up, I'm just going to have to, be patient and kind of play my way out of this situation that I'm in right now. How about you, Brian? Let's talk about your team. You're coming off a Green Arrow. Like you said, you're a couple 100,000 places higher than me in the ranks, despite using one less chip. What are your plans? I think you even have a couple of free transfers in your back pocket. So what are you thinking?
I got a couple times $2. I got 4 free transfers heading into this international break. So I am in a very good spot here. That was, again, part of missing the Brandon Johnson points this weekend. Just meant I could stockpile some more transfers. So I'm now, with these ability to roll over the transfers, eyeing Cole Palmer in game week 9, potentially in for Saka then. We'll see how that works out, but I think my weak link right now is Luis Diaz, especially if he's going to be traveling all the way from Colombia. I'm likely just going to make one transfer and move him to Brandon Johnson. Then I'll have $1.5 million in the bank or so, and that'll allow me to get Palmer pretty easily. And then I'm already kind of doing a little bit of planning all the way out to looking at removing Haaland after his run, maybe game week 12. And so I want to have 4 or 5 transfers, hopefully, by the time that time runs around. So, I'm stockpiling the transfers right now, hoping to hit on some of these big hitters when the fixtures swing. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on. And with my defense, I have Raya, Gabriel, I have Josko, Gavardiol, and Trent. And so I don't need to make any defensive transfers. So I'm just stockpiling those transfers right now and hoping to hit on a few moves. I'm going to play Wood next week and then bench the likes of Semenyo. And a lot of people are talking about moving him on, which, sure, it's a luxury. If you could get him to Brennan Johnson, I see that as a good move. But I'm in a position where I think I'll just play Rodgers and bench Semenyo for a couple weeks. I don't want to be using non-optimal transfers on players who are 5.5 million. I just bench them, try and rotate somebody in. So that's kind of where I'm at. So sitting pretty for the moment.
Brian, you want to chuck one of those free transfers my way? Can negotiate off air.
Oh, give a dog a bone? Okay. I'll see what I can do, Bucks. You're my guy. I could probably spare one.
I appreciate you. I think this about wraps us up here. We are FPLUSA Press Play. You can find us on all your social media at FPLUSA Press Play. I'm Bucks. That was Brian. You can find us on social. We're under the handle at FPLUSA, and then either Bucks or Brian, depending on who you're trying to follow first. But Chuck, both of us follows, and also our colleague Black Wolf. He's at FPL_Black Wolf. Excuse me.
Nailed it.
I've just about hit my limit here on the East Coast. I'm getting a little loopy. And again, we have that free to enter mini league. That is code T88F87. is going to close at the start of Game Week 8, so get entered if you so fancy. And this has been a lovely episode. Congratulations, Brian. You are now the best manager on the podcast. Well deserved. And we're going to go into
short-lived, I'm sure.
We're going into a long international break, so make sure to prioritize spending time with your loved ones, get outdoors, and we'll be right back in the FPL chaos as soon as next week.
And this is going to be our first video uploaded to YouTube, so do appreciate if you check us out at FPLUSA Press Play on YouTube, and just hit that little subscribe button. We're going to be doing some more video content as the time rolls on, so this was fun to try it out, and can't wait to see you guys next week, where we'll answer a lot of #FPLUSA community questions and #FPL community questions ahead of the Game Week 8 deadline. Catch you soon, Bucks.
Brian, is this the part where we do the OnlyFans feature for Black Wolf? Should I go nips out?
Oh my goodness, it is getting late out there on the East Coast. We better get out of here.